Infidelity means denying your commitments. Now, if your commitments are within a group marriage, then fidelity is being true within your group marriage. And infidelity is being untrue or dishonest outside of that. Now, there are some cultures in South America in which all forms of marriage are permitted. There are group marriages, polyandrous marriages, polygamous marriages, and monogamous marriages.
By group marriages, just a moment, let's get a question of definition here.
Okay, a group marriage is where a number of people, as a group, whatever the number is, announce, a marriage is a social announcement of commitment.
Yeah.
Announce that we will be responsible for the children we produce and for each other.
So in other words, all males and all females in this group can be in mutual intercourse with each other.
Yeah.
But not outside the group.
But not outside the group.
Outside the group.
Well, you make rules to take care of that. You got to bring in.
I'm not making rules. I'm just telling you what the anthropological precedences are for these things.
Yes.
It happens that in this South American culture that the majority of the marriages are monogamous. But it also happens that there are some polyandrous, some polygamous, and a few group ones. And I think that what we can allow is people to combine in whatever combinations they wish.
Oh, I certainly would agree with that.
When people, just as Lao Tzu said, when the great Tao lost, there came talk of duty to man and right conduct. And so when the essential idea of love is lost, there comes talk of fidelity. That actually, the only possible basis for two beings, male and female, to relate to each other is to grant each other total freedom. And say, I don't put any bonds on you, you don't put any bonds on me, because I want you, I love you the way you are. And I want you to be that. The minute you start making contracts and bonds and signing on the dotted line, you are wrecking the whole relationship. And you just have to trust to the fact that human beings should be legally allowed to trust each other and to enter into a fellowship that does not involve a contractual arrangement.
I think we all agree with that.
You know, because if you don't do that, you'll kill it.
In primitive cultures, marriage is not a contractual arrangement, but what it is it's a public announcement.
Yes.
What it amounts to. It's a relationship which is made public.
What was your fourth point, Gary?
Occasional gatherings of the tribes. That wasn't an activity.
Well, it seems to me then...
Say rather than group marriage, extended families. Extended cooperation structures, in other words. American Indian Technologies, meditation centers, extended cooperative clan type or extended family type structures with much more permissiveness in the nature of the family structure than is permitted, say, in Judeo-Christian tradition, and gatherings of the larger tribes periodically.
Well, practical suggestion number 6. I suggest that we have meetings in cities April 21st. I suggest we have, say, national meetings, or one national meeting perhaps June 21st, and that we start moving through Europe to the east so that we would, in September 21st, be on the door between India and China with as many Indians or Westerners or people that we picked up on the way. I think that's the quickest way to end racial prejudice in the war in Vietnam.
Some cultures aren't going to understand this yet.
And I don't think you get more than 20,000 people. And that was done anyway, all the way around there. And that was done anyway by Shankar Dale, and he got stopped at the border of Burma.
But you know...
let him through, but the Chinese wouldn't let him through, and the Indians were upset.
There's a social and historical problem here. One is that California's the only place that's ready for this, probably.
Right. San Francisco is the place, yeah.
Like you couldn't do this in Japan.
Well, it's already done that. Now let's move it out.
No, but you can't do it yet.
It hasn't done it yet.
A great percentage of the world is going to have to move through the drama of Western culture and technology in some accelerated way before they're ready for this. Like America is the only culture that's in which a number of people have seen through it and are able to go beyond it. Japan isn't ready to, for example. It would be incredibly eccentric to them. Nobody's ready to try that.
I question that. I think that if you look at the spread of American ideology, France is just now starting its super drugstores. You must not fail to realize the authentic, deep American spirit behind this. And I think that if it's taken 15 years for France to accept the super drugstore, why not 6 months to accept the being in San Francisco?
Well, because as any
See,
portion
the way
of
they
the
spread
world,
drugs or Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola was they when Coca-Cola first showed up in the Grand Canal in Venice, or Coca-Cola first showed up in Pakistan, it was considered eccentric. But if Pepsi-Cola can do it, the energy and the cellular collectivity, which started here, can move much more quickly because it's talking to deeper things in the human being than Pepsi-Cola. I think
but
this
these
thing
people,
should start moving.
are so many of these people in Africa and Asia are caught up in the drama of progress.
They want nothing more than to come to America and get a large apartment, and a large car and a big gun.
This is part of the paradox.
We can tell them. I feel the same way about the problem with the American Negro. Does he have to become a middle-class white before he can then go on and leave that? I don't think we have to go through these historical periods. I think it's possible to move it faster.
Well, I hope it's possible to accelerate it,
and
but you can't take it around the world this year or next year.
Yeah.
Like the drama is changing. Like what people are interested in is not things at states of mind. Like that's the cultural shift that's taking
No,
place
this is a very important statement. This.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
We've turned a corner. It's a bigger corner than the Reformation, probably.
Yes.
It's a corner of on the order of the change between Paleolithic and Neolithic. And it's like one of the 3 or 4 major turns in the history of man, not just culture, but man.
Right. Now, an enormous number of people go into the heart of New York every day for no other reason than to shop. There are, to a large extent, frustrated women living in these wretched dormitories. Their husbands are working, and the women go in order to get some kind of sense of existence, of being, by buying things. Now, supposing it happens that instead of that they change their state of mind,
Right.
instead of going out, and buying something, they change their state of mind sitting where they are in the first place. Then Bonwit Teller, everything in the middle of town simply collapses. Lawton Taylor, so on. There's no more reason for existence. It's like Market Street in San Francisco, where everything is slowly falling apart because it's so ridiculous to park there and you can't get at the place anyhow.
So where are people going to buy their U or tape machines and their non-gross?
Suppose they don't want them.
Pardon me?
Suppose they don't want them.
Well, we all have them.
We'll buy them from
Yeah,
Japan.
we're transitional figures.
Suppose it's decentralized.
No, like we don't need them. Like I would be happy to hear Larry Bird sing his corn dance and his buffalo dance, and I don't want to tape it. I'll hear it, and that's in my mind for the rest of my life.
Right.
Well, the problem here is that there's a withering away of the state.
Yeah.
But advanced electronics.
It's called let the state disintegrate.
Well,
Al.
the part
Yeah,
of
but
the...
an advanced technology such as we're talking about, unless you can magically transform it into some Buckminster Fuller box, which, each individual tribe can operate and create whatever it needs. Other than that, there's the technology as we know it now.
Well, I think that
which
the
is
technology...
like a large electronic network.
I think that the technology withers away as people learn to do it themselves. Like it's more interesting to do it yourself at home with your friends. Like sit around and blow the buffalo horn and blow the conch horn and then turn on the television.
And then turn on the television.
And not turn on the television.
But that was like conditions that were possible for when the continent held 15 million Indians.
Yeah.
But now the continent holds a great many more.
And that's still what's most interesting.
But
to do what you can do yourself.
the whole problem is reproduction. It's not only the reproduction of the species in a section,
Well, that's arbitrary.
but reproduction as we are now reproducing what we are saying on tape. Because if, supposing this conversation were very turned on and far out, I don't know whether it is or not, people would say, oh, what a pity that didn't get recorded.
Somebody
See,
remembers
because it didn't really happen unless it was recorded. And increasingly we are developing all kinds of systems for verifying reality by echoing it.
Well, trained minds remember, and the words of the Buddha were all remembered.
Yeah.
By
Oral
people who heard him
tradition.
talk.
Oral tradition.
And the words of the Buddha came down for 200 years before anybody put it in writing, because
Oral
people
tradition.
were paying attention to what he said.
And only then did they start embellishing it.
Yeah.
But Krishnamurti would argue that remembering it was already a fallacy.
Well, he's very pure.
Tim, Alan said he was a bridge builder, that he wanted to be a bridge builder. Now, that stalled car, if we've all got to be bridge builders in one sense, I think, perhaps. He was stalled in Haight-Ashbury amongst the acid heads, and no one gave him a push. if we're telling the kids they're doing something holy, they have to a certain extent, we have to be a little bit holy. And holiness is giving. And we have to learn to give. The diggers have said that since the being on January the 14th, thousands and thousands of kids who don't really know where they're at, but are attracted because they want to know where they're at, have come to the city. But they come to the city and they don't quite know whether to be defiant. They don't know. They don't know what to be. And unless they can become bridges for themselves, each person a bridge for themselves, so they can show that what they have got is something giving. The message doesn't get across. The car should be pushed.
Exactly. It's not enough to tell them that what they're doing by dropping out is right.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to get at.
Yes,
yeah.
well, that's very important. The point
We've
is,
got to become saints.
well, we at least have to
Which
be
is not
good.
even a silly thing to say.
Right.
It's not.
Exactly. It's exactly it. They've got to be told that they're pursuing the holiest road
But they
of
have to
all.
understand what that means.
Well, there should be, again, if we have these meditation centers in all cities, there would be centers where the Gita would be read, where the ancient sutras would be read, where they would be reminded. This is not teaching.
What we need is personal example all over the place.
Right,
really.
but I would suggest that in these meditation centers there be some program of readings, not in the sense of educating or teaching facts, but just reminding young people and any person who drops out and turns on that they are part of an ancient profession, the only holy profession. The profession has kept the flame going, and it certainly should express itself in pushing that Mercedes.
Do you think it's practical to try to get?
Pardon?
Do you think it's practical to try to get some sort of meditation in the public schools?
No, drop out of the public schools. The public schools cannot be compromised with.
No.
Well, what do you think? Turn on a bunch of college kids that would be 50
No.
and get anywhere that way?
Why say you shouldn't compromise with the public schools if you're going to compromise with technology?
Or courts.
We're not compromising with IBM or with General Electric. We're simply saying, as Gary has said, that part of man's karmic heritage is the ability to do incredible things with his hands and his analytic mind. But they should be holy things.
Yeah, it's a question of right occupation and
Yes.
right conduct. It's not like that technology is bad or that schools are bad.
Well, now look here. What are we saying when we say now something is holy? That means you should take a different attitude to what you're doing than if you were, for example, doing it for kicks. Now, there's a curious thing here. I have noticed with Allen Ginsberg that when he chants Hindu sutras, he doesn't do it in a pious way.
Right.
There's a joyousness and there's a feeling of delight to doing this chant that has more
Wiggling
zip to it than anything
jumping.
we knew in the past as being holy. Now, when you was doing something holy in the past, that you had to put on a solemn expression of saying, we are doing this, but it hurts, but it's good for us. He's not doing that when he chants that. He's not saying it hurts and therefore it's good for me. He's saying it's good for me because I enjoy it. It's gorgeous. I'm going right in there and I'm going to say all these Om Hari Rama Krishna Rama Hari Ram Hari, etc. You see?
He's turning himself on.
And I told right, and I told some nuns a little while ago where the Mother Superior came and they were all talking about the reform of the liturgy and how the Catholic Church has gotten itself in a mess by translating the Latin liturgy into terrible English, and all the magic has gone out of it. And I said, you should come and listen to Allen Ginsberg chant the sutras, because then you'd know how to celebrate Mass properly. So, when we're talking about something being holy, we've got to be very careful.
Yeah.
We're saying now, Gary, you were saying, all right, people have got to be saints, and you said, well, that's not just a joke to say this, but it's got to be saints in an entirely new sense, not this masochistic kind of sainthood, whereby I am holy because I hurt, and the amount of personal hurt that I've piled up is the measure of my holiness.
Well, that's the Judeo-Christian day, which says that the cross is at the center of the universe.
But what about India, where we do have a giant psychedelic community and many tribal groups and tribal gatherings which serve as a model for our own? What kind of material system is that? And would that be acceptable to Mariana Sambhi?
Sure, it's acceptable.
So what do you think of Swami Bhaktivedanta? plea for the acceptance of Krishna in every direction.
Well, it's a lovely, positive thing to say Krishna.
Yeah.
You know, like Krishna it's a beautiful mythology.